In 1955, Bill Gates was born in Seattle, Washington, into a family that valued education, hard work, and ambition. He grew up in a supportive family. His father was a successful lawyer, while his mother was active in education and community work. From an early age, Bill was encouraged to read, learn, ask questions, and think differently. Books became an important part of his childhood. He could spend hours reading and exploring subjects that interested him. His parents encouraged him to work hard and develop his own ideas. As Bill grew older, he became especially interested in mathematics and solving difficult problems. But one discovery was about to completely change his life: the computer. As a teenager, Bill attended Lakeside School in Seattle, where he got access to a computer terminal. At that time, computers were extremely expensive and were rarely available to students. For Bill, the computer was more than a machine. It was a doorway into a completely new world. He quickly became fascinated by programming and began spending hours experimenting with commands and software. Bill learned by reading, experimenting, making mistakes, and trying again. Every error became another problem to solve, and every successful program made him want to learn more. At Lakeside School, Bill met another young computer enthusiast named Paul Allen. Bill and Paul quickly discovered that they shared the same passion for computers and programming. They began spending more and more time together, discussing technology and imagining the future of computers. While other students were leaving school, Bill and Paul were often still working at the computer. They tested programs, fixed errors, and continued experimenting with new ideas. Their friendship gradually became a powerful partnership. They weren't satisfied with simply using computers. They wanted to create software for them. They began imagining a future where computers could become useful to ordinary people. Then, in 1975, they heard about a new personal computer called the Altair 8800. Bill and Paul immediately recognized that this could be a huge opportunity. They realized that if personal computers were going to grow, they would need software. Bill contacted the company behind the Altair and offered to develop basic software for the machine. There was only one problem. They didn't actually have the finished software yet. So Bill and Paul worked intensely, writing code, testing it, fixing mistakes, and working long hours. Eventually, they created a working version of their basic software. Paul Allen tested the program on the Altair, and it worked. That moment changed everything. They realized that software could become a real business. In 1975, Bill Gates and Paul Allen took the risk and founded Microsoft. The company started with almost nothing, but their ambition was enormous. In 1975, Bill Gates and Paul Allen turned their attention to a new machine that was changing the world of personal computing: the Altair 8800. The Altair was one of the earliest personal computers, and Bill and Paul immediately saw something bigger than the machine itself. They realized that powerful hardware needed software to make it truly useful. Bill and Paul believed that software could become the most important part of the growing computer revolution. They began studying the Altair carefully, trying to understand exactly how they could create software for it. Bill focused on programming, while Paul worked closely with the hardware and technical details. Their goal was to create a version of the basic programming language that could run on the Altair. But there was a major challenge. They had to build the software from scratch. They spent long hours writing code, testing programs, finding errors, and starting again. Their workspace was filled with programming notes, manuals, papers, and early computer equipment. The pressure was intense, but Bill and Paul refused to give up. Eventually, they produced a working version of BASIC for the Altair. Alan tested the program on the machine, while Bill waited anxiously for the result. Then something incredible happened. The program worked. Their successful demonstration proved that software could turn a basic computer into something much more useful. Bill and Paul now understood that they had discovered a serious business opportunity. They decided that instead of treating programming as a hobby, they would build a company around software. In 1975, they officially founded Microsoft. Microsoft started extremely small, with a young team and very limited resources. There was no giant headquarters, no worldwide network, and no massive workforce. There were only programmers, computers, software ideas, and a powerful belief in the future. Microsoft began developing software for the rapidly growing personal computer industry. As more computer companies entered the market, the demand for useful software continued to grow. Bill Gates understood that controlling important software could give Microsoft a powerful position in the computer industry. The company began attracting talented programmers who helped build new software products. Microsoft's small office became increasingly busy as the company started taking on more projects. Bill Gates continued meeting people in the computer industry and searching for opportunities to expand Microsoft's software. Slowly, Microsoft began gaining recognition beyond its original group of computer enthusiasts. Bill Gates and Paul Allen knew they had created something important, but they also knew their biggest opportunity had not arrived yet. Microsoft had started as a tiny software company, but the next stage would change everything as the company prepared to enter the world of IBM, operating systems, and the personal computer revolution. Microsoft's next major opportunity came from one of the biggest computer companies in the world, IBM. IBM was preparing to enter the personal computer market, and it needed reliable software. Microsoft saw an opportunity that could completely change its future. Bill Gates and his team began working on an operating system for IBM's new personal computer. The project required intense programming and careful testing. Microsoft engineers worked long hours developing the software and preparing it for IBM's machine. The result was MS-DOS, a command line operating system that became a major part of the personal computer revolution. When IBM computers reached the market, MS-DOS helped Microsoft reach a much larger audience. Businesses and individuals around the world began using computers powered by Microsoft's software. For Bill Gates, this was a turning point. Microsoft was no longer just a small software company. The company was becoming a major force in the rapidly growing computer industry. But Bill Gates wanted to take computing even further. Microsoft began developing a more visual and user-friendly operating system called Windows. Instead of relying mainly on typed commands, Windows introduced graphical elements that made computers easier to use. Microsoft engineers worked for years to improve the Windows experience. Bill Gates believed that computers should eventually be simple, enough for ordinary people to use. Windows continued evolving, becoming more powerful and more popular with each generation. As personal computers became common in homes and offices, demand for Windows grew rapidly. Microsoft's workforce expanded as the company developed more software products. The company also began creating powerful business applications that would become essential tools for millions of users. Microsoft Word became a popular tool for writing documents. Microsoft Excel transformed the way people worked with numbers, calculations, and business data. Microsoft PowerPoint became widely used for presentations in schools and businesses. Together, these products helped create a powerful Microsoft software ecosystem. By the late 1980s, Microsoft had grown far beyond its humble beginnings. Bill Gates had become one of the most recognized leaders in the technology industry. Microsoft was now competing on a global scale, with software being used by millions of people. The personal computer revolution had created an enormous market, and Microsoft was right at the center of it. The company continued expanding its products, employees, offices, and global partnerships. What began with two young programmers and a small software idea had become a massive technology company. But Microsoft's greatest period of growth was still ahead. By the 199 OS, Windows had become one of the most important operating systems in the world. More homes, schools, and businesses were beginning to use personal computers powered by Microsoft software. Bill Gates had become one of the most recognizable leaders in the technology industry. Microsoft continued improving Windows, making computers easier and more powerful for everyday users. But Windows wasn't the only reason Microsoft was growing so quickly. Microsoft Office became another major part of the company's success. Microsoft Word helped millions of people create documents and manage their work. Microsoft Excel changed the way businesses handled numbers, calculations, and data. PowerPoint became a popular tool for presentations in schools, companies, and organizations. Together, Windows and Office helped make Microsoft a dominant force in personal and business computing. But Microsoft's growing power also brought serious criticism and legal challenges. In the late 1990s, the company faced a major antitrust case in the United States. Government officials questioned Microsoft's business practices and its growing influence over the computer industry. Bill Gates and Microsoft faced intense legal pressure while the company continued operating and developing new products. Despite the controversy, Microsoft continued expanding into new areas of technology. One of its biggest new moves came in the world of video games. Microsoft introduced the Xbox, entering an industry dominated by major gaming companies. Xbox quickly became an important part of Microsoft's consumer technology business. Microsoft continued investing in gaming, software, and digital entertainment. But another transformation was beginning: cloud computing. Microsoft invested heavily in powerful data centers and cloud infrastructure around the world. Its cloud platform, Azure, became one of the company's most important businesses. Azure allowed companies to store data, run applications, and use powerful computing services through the Internet. Microsoft was no longer simply a company making software for personal computers. It was becoming a massive technology platform connecting businesses, developers, and users around the world. Then artificial intelligence became one of the biggest technological revolutions of the modern era. Microsoft began investing heavily in AI, bringing artificial intelligence into its software, cloud services, and products. By the 2020s, Microsoft had transformed into a global technology giant with businesses spanning Windows, Office, Xbox, Azure, and artificial intelligence. The journey was remarkable. It began with Bill Gates and Paul Allen working on early computers, with almost nothing but an idea and determination. From a tiny software startup to a global technology giant in 2026, Microsoft's story shows how one small idea can grow into an empire that changes the world.